You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. What do you need to do to convince African Americans in those critical states that you are the best shot to beat Donald Trump?
Well, let me just tell you, we just returned from a trip to South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. We had great responses from the African-American community and people in general. And I think the reason for that, Roland, is we have an agenda that speaks to the needs of workers, to the needs of the African-American community. And that is an agenda that says that in a nation, we have an economy and a government that works for the 1%. What about an economy and a government that works for all of us? And in the midst of massive levels of economic disparity in the nation, it is even worse within the African-American community. So I think if you look at my agenda, which says every American is entitled to health care as a human right, and we've got to join the rest of the industrialized world, and we have to deal with the disparities in health care in the African-American community. You have an infant mortality rate of 2.5 times in the black community compared to the white community. You have black mothers dying at a much higher rate than in the white community. You have black families unable to access health care at all at a much higher rate than white community. So we need an economy and a government that works for all. We need to pay a special attention to the minority communities who are getting a very raw deal right now.
So how, though, do we deal with what is structural? Because the reality is, when we look, this is the year of return, 400 years when 20-odd Africans arrived in Virginia in August of 1619. When we look at all the sectors in our economy, even though unemployment is at its lowest rate for African Americans, it is still twice that of the rate. A white high school graduate can make more money than a black college graduate. When you look at housing, when you look at, all of the indicators, African Americans lag far behind. So what can you do as president to specifically deal with what is structural that has been in place for centuries that has negatively impacted African Americans?
Well, in terms of health care, for a start, where there is enormous disparity. Number one, you guarantee health care to all people through Medicare for all, but that's not enough. You have to deal with the disparities within the healthcare system. That means we need more black doctors, we need more black nurses, we need more black psychologists and social workers. We need to pay attention to those communities that are oppressed the most. In terms of housing, we need to pay attention to those communities in this country which are distressed, where gentrification is wrecking communities. People are being driven out of the homes that they grew up in, that their families grew up in. And that means that we pass legislation to protect working people in the homes that they have lived in forever. Also that we build affordable housing. In terms of education, it means not only do we make public colleges and universities tuition free, we significantly increase funding for the HBCUs to make sure that they thrive and young black people can get the education that they need. It means that we target federal resources. Jim Clyburn has a good bill. It's called 10-20-30.
Yep.
And what he said, long-time distressed communities, not always, but most often minority communities, we're going to put 10% of federal funding into those communities. That means making sure that kids there have teachers who are well paid. We're not leaving every year. It means that the school buildings that kids go to are not falling apart. So we're going to pay attention to education. We pay attention to childcare. I was out in Milwaukee a while back, and I talked to a black businessman. He runs a small, successful small business. He's done it for a long time. He cannot get a loan in that community. That means we tell the financial services institutions to stop redlining. Make sure that businesses, black, white, Latino, get the loans that they need.
The question is how we pay for it. Yesterday, I interviewed Senator Elizabeth Warren on the Times Journal Morning Show, where she outlined specifically how she would pay for it, especially when she talked about the increase in funding to HBCUs. And so where do those resources come from? Do you have your specific plan in terms of where those dollars would come from, especially, like I said, as it relates to increasing the level of funding to our historically black colleges and universities?
Absolutely. Just yesterday, as a matter of fact, we held a press conference with Representative Barbara Lee of California. And what we talked about is putting a speculation tax on Wall Street, a transaction tax. And right, that program would bring in $2.4 trillion over a 10-year period. Right now, Wall Street is doing phenomenally well, while the middle class continues to struggle. So if you want to make sure that all of our kids have the opportunity to go to college, if you want to make sure that we reduce student debt, which is particularly impressive for African American and Latino kids, then what we need to do is get the revenue, and one very progressive way is putting a tax on Wall Street speculation, $2.4 trillion over a 10-year period. I believe that every kid in this country has the right to a higher education, regardless of the income of his or her family, and we have the money to do that. So we repealed Trump's tax breaks for the rich. We passed this tax on Wall Street. We will have more than enough money to make sure that our kids get the education that they need.
Recently in Atlanta, for our School Choice is the Black Choice Town Hall event. There was an elementary school in Atlanta, folks. This is a black elementary school. 5% of the school students were reading on grade level. I'm gonna repeat that. In Atlanta, 5% of the children were reading on grade level. So you then have to ask the question, what's gonna happen when they're in middle school? What's gonna happen when they are in high school? Will they ever be able to catch up? Will they be consigned for the entire life of being behind?